Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be doing an overview for the latest letter from the producer live. This one was one that had a lot of people's eyes. There's obviously been a lot of unrest in the community as of late, and quite frankly, a part 2 live letter normally doesn't do anything to dispel that. While there's definitely ups and downs in this live letter, there were some surprising bits that caught us off guard. Some of them really minor things that don't really solve underlying issues. Some providing hope, a small glance at actual innovation within Final Fantasy XIV that, if utilized correctly in the future, could actually open up a lot more content possibilities. But we'll have to get to the deep dungeon section to talk about that. So without further ado, let's get started. Our translations here are unofficial and brought to you by the Final Fantasy XIV Reddit Discord. They do unofficial translations for all of them, providing images as well. So take everything with a minor grain of salt. Always worth doing that. So, we started with the trailer. I uploaded the trailer separately. We're not going to watch it again right now, so bear that in mind. You can always go check out my reactions to that. There are some funny ones in there. They confirmed what we already basically knew, August 5th for the patch. They said early August. I've explained it a million times, but when they say early, they mean first 10 days, middle 10 days, late, last 10 days. There was only one Tuesday in early August, so August 5th, which also is on their 19-week schedule. So yeah, I've been doing this a while, so the prediction came to no surprise to me. Of course, you all knew. Like, even he's not surprised by it anyway. He's just like, yeah, no, of course, you all knew. Yep, we should be on schedule. Yeah, should is the important thing. Of course, then they released it in all the languages. So, this is just them talking over the trailer a little bit. There isn't anything too much of substance here at the beginning. Just talking about being in LA for Anime Expo and the venue being cold and blankets in the waiting room, etc., etc. So then they started with a recap of features for 7.3. They do this in the part 2 live letters. Like I said, there's usually a bit of a structure here. The new trial they're not going to show us. It's going to stay secret. Honestly, it's almost certainly a Necron equivalent, even just basing off the trailer itself. They didn't even show us the EX trial mount, so I'm guessing it would be too obvious, and as such, they're not giving us anything. Story's a bit longer this time. Cool. Duty support for the new dungeon, the Meso Terminal, and then can't say much for the new trial. We don't even know if it's related to it. It will have normal, and it will have extreme. And then they did confirm a couple of things. One, it's a slightly longer extreme by 30 seconds or so. And so it's going to have 2 totems per clear. At this point, most people are accepting of the fact that 2 totems per clear should probably just be the standard. If it means they're always 30 seconds longer, I don't know what the heck that even translates to. Should probably just make them all that much longer and make them all 2 totems. But they also said, at this point later down the line, we want to reevaluate how many totems we're giving out as a reward. So while we are getting 2 totems for this, it's starting to sound like 3 totems might be a possibility in the future. And I think a lot of that has to do, not with how long it takes to obtain the mount, but the collection of any and all of the weapons and how many clears it takes to actually get to a reward. At the bare minimum, 2 totems being the standard is definitely the feedback I've had for quite some time. If they go up to 3 for longer ones, great, but that's just me kind of predicting based on the text they've given us here. And apparently Foxclon just never stops running. He basically just goes until he gets the mount, even if he gets 500 totems along the way. So he's never used totems to buy a mount. This man's a sicko. Now, they went over some of the updates that we already knew about. Remember that this is a 7.3 Part 1 live letter recap at the start. The exclusive instance thing that they already did apparently has been quite successful. And on top of that come the adjustments to the minimum number of ciphers that are actually required. Check the Sanguine cipher that have been offered and your selection status. Entry confirmed and eligible for selection, ineligible for selection. And then, of course, the other bit down here. Everybody needs at least 1 Sanguine cipher. The occurrence of new auroral mirages will be put on hold during critical encounters. And something else, this is something that they touched upon in the last live letter, but we didn't actually get the full details on it. They said they wanted to reevaluate the rewards from bunnies and magic pots. Apparently, they will always include either enlightenment gold pieces or silver pieces. So they're trying to add a bit more value to these things. I would assume that the persistent pots would be silver pieces and happy bunnies would be gold, but it seems to imply that it could be random which one you obtain from doing persistent pots and happy bunnies. But trying to add that value, because one of the biggest problems with persistent pots in particular is that you usually have to skip some stuff to go do them. So if they want you to feel okay about that, because you never really want to miss things on the map in Occult Crescent, they need to make sure that there's some sort of additional incentive. I myself have said they probably needed to add enlightenment pieces to that, and it seems that's what they're actually doing. So glad to see that that's a small adjustment. It doesn't really fix the core issue with the reward structure on pots and happy bunnies. I don't think that it's still largely not good. Not to mention the bunnies, whole different story. But yeah, that's just a couple of things added in there. Then they just showed us a bunch of the features, Echoes of Vana'diel Part 2, which we now actually know all the bosses for. In my trailer reaction, we only saw 3 of the 4 bosses. We actually know all 4 bosses now because of the in-game footage they showed us later in this very live letter. The new Bayside Battleground Arena for PvP, and we saw some CC updates as well. The new Treasure Dungeon, which we will see some stuff for later. Seiryu Unreal, hopefully not as annoying as Suzaku was, please and thank you. The chat bubble feature, as well as duty support for Cutter's Cry. Option to hide Viera ears with the new headgear, and expanded headgear support for Hrothgar and Viera. From my understanding, basically metal helmets won't work still with Hrothgar and Viera, but most everything else will. That was my understanding. It might not be entirely off, but they specifically called out metal helmets as not working. So to call that out specifically tells me most else will actually work. I have no idea why you would play Viera and then remove the Viera ears for any... It doesn't make any sense to me. But that's what they're doing. And something I had forgotten already. Bangs will now display when wearing hood-type headgear. Again, Part 1 live letter. We knew that. We also know that we will get the new Cosmic Exploration 7.31 in that of Fena. They went over a bunch of adjustments they're going to be making to that in the Part 1 live letter as well. Better assessment of the reward structure, reason to keep doing it after you've actually completed your tools, etc., etc. So they don't really talk about it too much after that. Weapon enhancement for the Phantom weapons. Bad news. This was bad news for me. There are minor tweaks we did for the weapon upgrades. If you're in a rush, you will need to do a lot. If you're more relaxed, dailies will be, again, enough to get you the upgrade step. That's a light farm to me. Light farm is basically, you do content, you build up light. When the light is full, you're done. It's not uncommon for people to just go do their daily roulettes, get light from that, and then that's how they progress it. So they don't actually need to stress about it all too much. And it's not going to require any RNG or any factors like that. So good news for people who are upset with the Atma section. And the light farm is actually one of the more popular steps that they've done in the past. My problem is the final thing. And doing it once will be enough. Doing it once and it being enough is actually not an issue at all. It's that if they just ask me for 1,500 tomes again afterwards, I'm going to lose my mind. Again, tomes are fine. They should be an option every single time. And they have been a lot of the times in the past. But don't make me do only tomes. Give me an option. Let me farm extra light. Let me do something that isn't just drop 1,500 tomes 20 more times. Please. I'm not optimistic. Let's put it that way. The new Deep Dungeon Pilgrim's Traverse, new Allied Society Yaqui, and of course, more Hildebrand. Then they went on to in-game footage. We are going to see a lot of this stuff in-game. Some of it we won't, but we will see a lot of it. So we got to see the starting part of Sandoria. Poison Hand Ganadbad was one of the first trash pulls that we heard. And the BGM is actually the Ronfauer BGM instead of the bagpipes. So if you're hoping for the bagpipes from Sandoria, can't promise you'll get anything of the like. We don't see it here, but yeah, Poison Hand Ganadbad, one of the orc bosses, very popular one that used to exist in Devoy. Maybe I'll do a reference video for it at some point. But that was the first trash pull here. The second trash pull with Ronfauer music, there was only one trash pull that was ever going to make sense. And indeed, when he pulls this pack, while they skip the screenshot here, Jaggedy Eared Jack, one of the most popular low-level notorious monsters in Final Fantasy XI, does indeed make his appearance, as, again, he was a native to Ronfauer itself. So, glad to see them going with the references once again. It then takes you to Horley's Peak, which was a battleground area. Basically, you would go there and just fight bosses. I've actually recorded a bunch of videos of me fighting stuff in Horley's Peak, whether it be the more modern things that you do there, like the Mars Orbs and Venus Orb Gambas, or a lot of the old fights. There's story fights that take place here. There's old Burning Circle bosses that take place here. So some people, before he turned the corner, might have thought, oh, well, maybe it'll be like the Argus fight, the Peacock Amulet fight, which isn't that big of a deal. So I'm glad they didn't do that. What I didn't expect was Kieran. Now, Kieran is probably the game's original super boss. I guess I would call him that. In the Rise of Xylar expansion, let me rephrase, the global release's first major endgame boss. In Rise of Xylar, there is an area called Sky. It's actually where we go before the Archangels in the previous raid, the area we're walking around in. You've probably heard me refer to as Sky there. That's an endgame area. I'm just giving it its nickname, Ruan Gardens, if you will. And you progress through a whole bunch of super bosses in there, spawning them this way, spawning them that way, going here, going there, invisible walls. There's all sorts of things. At the end of it all, if you have all the items from the various gods, Seiryu, Suzaku, Byakko, and Genbu, yep, the four lords, Kieran, you can spawn him, and he summons all of them. And basically, we know that's going to be the case here, too. He's not normally in this Burning Circle-style arena, but we do indeed have Kieran here with some new mechanics as well. But we also, for certain, see him doing a summoning circle here, and that actually summons Seiryu, which is not a good screenshot of, but it is the original Seiryu model from Final Fantasy XI. So we will be getting a sort of mini Four Lords fight here, if you will. And yeah, very interested to see how that ends up going. So there is actually something new in the UI here that's highlighted, and they do touch upon it later. Several bosses now in Final Fantasy XIV are going to show cast bars under their actual names as well. Yes, you can focus target. Yes, you can look at the enmity list, but this is another option should you prefer it. They said it needs to be enabled for each boss, which implies that it will not be available for every boss in the game. I don't know if that just means multi-target bosses or bosses where they think visuals are poor, but it's not something that's permanent, and it is toggleable if you don't want it at all. And now, in case you're wondering, the other bosses, if you haven't watched the trailer, Camlanot, Aeldnarsh, and actually one of the story missions from Chains of Promethea against Omega and Ultima, the Final Fantasy XI equivalents of Omega and Ultima. So that's going to be a hilarious one. That is one of the most notoriously difficult fights in Final Fantasy XI's earlier story days, especially in Chains of Promethea itself. So having to fight both of them is going to be wild. Now, of course, it's a 24-man alliance raid. It's not going to be super tough, but maybe it'll throw a wrench or two in people's expectations. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think the fourth boss is the hardest. That should be Aeldnarsh, or Aeldnark, however it's pronounced. And yeah, I'm excited. So, Orchestrion rolls. They're making some changes to the way the drops work. People complained about getting them. It was 3 Orchestrion rolls per 24 people per entire run. Now it's going to be 12 Orchestrion rolls per 8 people per alliance every run. Of course, there's no weekly limit, so you can roll on the Orchestrion rolls as much as you want, but you have a much higher probability of actually winning the Orchestrion rolls. And if you're someone who's trying to collect every song, then at least for the second walk, you should have a much easier time collecting the music from the second walk. Then we saw the gear. So the first set is Shantoto. Shantoto, of course, one of Final Fantasy XI's most popular characters. You'll often hear her mentioned whenever. I mean, we've even had a collaboration where she shows up. Her staff shows up in Eureka, weirdly enough. And yeah, that's a not too uncommon set. Final Fantasy XI rarely had very unique character sets. There are a few. I could definitely think of a few, but Shantoto wore a pretty traditional set that you would see. It wasn't uncommon to see someone actually wearing it. But a very popular one. This is actually the Dancer artifact gear from Final Fantasy XI. So that's a very popular set as well. Also, the gear set of Lilith, one of the main characters, very specifically from the Wings of the Goddess expansion, which beginning to think there might be some ties. I do think Promethea is the final boss of the last tier, but you never know with the Walk of Echoes being involved. That is a Wings of the Goddess thing. We also have Prish gear here as well. So Prish is going to be another set. And then we also see the Errant set. The Errant set is the reskin effectively of this, but it is its own set in Final Fantasy XI. Quite a popular set as well, largely used for restoring your MP when you're resting. So not really an active combat set, but more of a resting set. That's going to be the healer set. And then we also see another... this is actually not just a reskin of the Dancer artifact gear. This is actually Dancer relic gear. So very similar to how we have AF1 and AF2. Same idea. Dancer AF1, Dancer AF2. Just 2 different sets. So they're at least making use of 2 different sets for the reskinned versions for the different jobs, since, you know, there's usually like a handful of new sets and then there's like reskins for them. So effective use of that to actually use a different artifact set overall. And a very good set. Both of them very good sets at that. So one probably aiming, one probably scouting. Prish probably striking because she's a monk, which means also would be, you know, for monk samurai. Ninja would have a reskin most likely. Well, I'm sorry, yeah, they might have a reskin of the aiming gear. One thing I can't help but notice, none of this is the tank set. I don't know if, I mean, Alzal's set is entirely possible, but maybe it's like Camlinot's set, maybe it's the Adaman set, because it's not going to be the Koenig set, because I'm pretty sure we have that. There are a lot of tank sets that were mildly popular. The Adaman set wouldn't be too surprising, but it is the only set we don't see. So we're going to have to wait for the special site update to actually get a good look at that. Then this has nothing to do with this. They showed this early. This is actually a PvP set, which take that how you will. But we do get the PvP updates for the patch. Series 9 is beginning, PvP action adjustments, and new items available for trophy crystals. That's this set plus several other sets as well. The new tiers, Omega and Ultima, they said this is actually partially being done to help with queues later past the beginning of the seasons. The beginning of seasons pop off hard because people are climbing their ranks, whether it be for the first time or they're going back from being downranked to the new ranks. The problem is, if you're not in those first few weeks, it gets worse and worse, and it's very, very quick to notice. Biggest problem with PvP, with ranked PvP, is how quick the fall off is for seasons at any given season. So the idea that Omega and Ultima are supposed to extend that life cycle really only sounds like it works for Platinum and Diamond, because I'd assume upper Platinum and maybe Diamond can end up playing with Omega and Ultima level players. And that's supposed to give them more of a chance. It also means that if you're in Ultima and a Diamond player wins against you, they're just going to be like, Ultima, by the way. So we have our new Legend, by the way, meme. Then they also are adding duo queues to casual matches. They are considering adding even more, adding 3, 4, 5. They said they're just open to the idea, but they want to start with 2 first. They're also adding a visual indicator for when medicine kits are going to appear, so you can play around that timer. Of course, there will be action adjustments and stuff like that. But probably the biggest change to PvP is the change of Purify. Purify is pretty much the I'm trying to save myself, but then you just die immediately after. Purify was the it's down, kill that guy button. Because once you purge yourself of all your debuffs, you either guard it immediately, and now your guard's on cooldown as well, or you just had to spam heal and hope you lived and didn't get CC'd to death a second time. Purify is now going to be a resource similar to your healing in PvP, where it has a 4-second cooldown, works the same way, but has a 4-second cooldown, but actually has an MP cost. So it will be competing with your ability to heal yourself versus your ability to actually break the CC. This should give you a lot more viability, because odds are you would use this once, maybe twice back to back in a fight. And also the resilience effect does last 2 seconds. So you have a 2-second downtime where you actually would have to get bursted down, but you can have a lot more short form resilience against debuffs and actual debuff cleanse, which should make for a mildly better experience for even the average player. Again, it's a major pain point, the Purify cooldown in current PvP. So glad to see this. That 1-second loss is still a very big deal, but compared to the 20 seconds you are now gaining on the recast itself, as long as, you know, as long as it works as intended, then it should be fine. Then you have visual effects for persistent visual effects for certain skills. Dark Knight's Undead Redemption, Gunbreaker's Nebula, most importantly, Samurai's Chiten. Listen, I don't think that's actually going to save anyone, because by the time you see Chiten, you may have even already pressed the button. But the idea is you can visually see when a samurai is in I'm about to kill all of you mode. And same with all of these other things right here. I don't know how badly Black Mage needed Wreath of Fire or Wreath of Ice indicators, but that'll be good to have as well. Then they just went into a quick solo match and beat each other up. They showed off the map. It's a pretty standard map. Honestly, very Palestra-like. It doesn't look like there's any sort of effects on the map. There's no like tidal waves. There's no random thing. It's a very basic Palestra-y map. And there's a reason why the Palestra is one of the most popular maps in Crystalline Conflict. So this will probably just give people a bit of variety over Palestra, without removing the Palatial, which does have the way that its speed lanes work and the way it's set up and the actual spacing very different in the Palatial. This is a little bit more claustrophobic. There's a little bit more line of sight that's readily available, but it's just a PvP map. There's just no like random other things like fireballs and Bomberman explosions and wind and all that stuff that's going to be knocking you around. It's a neutral map. And so they just kind of mess around a little bit, show off some of the new stuff. Purify coming back up real quick. The blue aura around the Samurai for Chi-10. And that's it. You know, they just showed off the map at that point. Then we got to look at some of the armor. They're going with casual glams for PvP here. And so you can see this set, you know, with the hoodie and the shorts. This set's probably going to be pretty popular. I think this is the first or second set. The next set might be some people's favorite set. But this is probably going to be a pretty popular set, I have to imagine, right here. In fact, let me blow it up onto the screen real quick so you can get a better look at it. Probably should have done that with the earlier sets as well. I can imagine people are probably going to be very much yearning for that. They're also going to be very much yearning for that. I saw this and I was like, I think casual players who are looking more for like really, I guess it doesn't have to be a casual player, but people who are more glam-centric will probably look more towards that. The previous one and this one, but it's like a toss-up which one they might actually be more interested in. And then you've just got the Catboy serving over here, learning a thing or two from Dancing Green. Again, more of the casual wear. I'm indifferent. I'm not a glam person anyway, so my opinion on glam is usually just like, is it cool, is it not? I'm indifferent. I'm not wild about a lot of the casual glams. I kind of look at them piece by piece and see, is that individual set good versus lumping them all as one. For PvP, it's kind of a strange thing for me. I think they know that casual glams are very motivating for a lot of players, and so putting it in PvP seems deliberate. I'm more of a give PvP the kind of edgier, kind of original like Hellhound stuff we got. Like, that's my own personal thing. But I'm also not going to say no to these sets being added to the game, and it gives people something to use their trophy crystals on, which is ideally something that needs to happen a lot more frequently. So I'll take it. Then we got the new treasure dungeon, which I predicted. It's a slot machine. So he went into Vault Onarin, or One Iron, if you prefer to be an asshole like me, because I love saying, yeah, look, Vault 1 Iron. And then everyone's like, that's not how it's said. And I'm like, Vault 1 Iron. I prefer a 4 iron or a 9 iron, but that's fine. Then you can see the slot machines show up there. He zones in. And then you can see like it starts rolling through. And it seems like the big thing is you need to get like triple broken crystal to get ejected. And there is, of course, a potential for the slots to re-roll without you being exited. I wonder what the super like save me thing ends up looking like. Do they just spin out of control, or do the slot machines like I don't know how that's gonna look, but that's actually what I want to see the most. And it's not just mini bosses either. We have like a mini trash pull right here, where it's more like the door dungeons, where like there's like waves of trash, and then sometimes there's like a mini boss that's present. So you can see like here, this is the last wave of the mini bosses. And then they got the Golden Mandragora. They did also get a respin right here. The third one was a 1, and then it respinned up to a 3. So you can, of course, get those respins, and that can be fun as well. A bunch of gimmick mobs that you have to, they have to kill in a certain order. We know from the trailer that the Gill mob is is like a gilded gimme cat. Gimme Gill meow. You know, something like that. And this is what it looks like when you're about to be ejected. This is the you have failed the slot machine option. And then they get kicked out. Then we get to see what the glams look like, which is weird because these are like a new marriage glam, sort of, or like a new like fancy dress glam, because this just reminds me of the wedding set, but different colors, slightly different tapering and stuff like that. Maybe you could go butler with it, I suppose. But you have this is one of the sets you can craft with the new materials from the new treasure map. And then this is the other, probably going to be the more popular one, I imagine, the dress. Not that looking dapper is a bad thing, but I feel like we have enough sets that kind of accomplish this at this point. Not that this one doesn't either, but I feel like this will probably be the more popular of the two, personally. Very Beauty and the Beastie. Then we saw the crafting and gathering sets. Bro, that's the crafting set? That thing looks great! This is, so to be clear, 0.3 patches add new green tier crafted gear, which means that like you can buy it off the market board and overmeld it and all that stuff. That's the crafter gear. And then this is the gathering gear. That's like the coolest sets we've got in the entire expansion. That's gatherer gear right there. That's a wild set for gathering. So, yeah, they cooked hard on the crafting and gathering sets. Not gonna lie. Those both look great. And that was it for the first part of the live letter. They say first half. It's really more like first 7.7.4. There you go. The first 40% of it. They went on break. They played a music video. They played the Aorza Orbix, the gymnastic thing that they released. And then the crazy stuff started happening when we came back. New deep dungeon. I thought this was just going to be standard. Hey, this is what it looks like. You know, we're doing this thing different, and it was going to be over. And I couldn't have been more wrong. Because it's not just about the deep dungeon. It's about design philosophies as a whole. And at first, we didn't understand what that meant when Yoshi P was talking about it. And we really got a good idea of it right after. This was a big thing. So Yoshi P actually started this discussion first by saying, you know, what is a deep dungeon? We can skip all that. I have videos on that. I'm not going over it here. But he said that there's things they want to change about 14 overall. And they're going to touch upon that while introducing the deep dungeon. That was a weird statement to start this with. And it really didn't make sense right away either. So we know that the deep dungeon is Pilgrim's Traverse. It's located on the first. And then we had this slide. A deep dungeon for everyone. As many of you know, if something's for everyone, it's for no one is a common phrase. And it's a concern. Because when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, previous attempts at making things accessible to more people has often just turned people away from it altogether. It doesn't always do that, but it's definitely a toss-up. So this was a scary slide because Deep Dungeon players are expecting a certain experience. New players want to see if it's something they get into, and hardcore players don't have an ultimate, so they want something that they can sink their teeth into a little bit more. So how do you do a Deep Dungeon for everyone? Apparently this is how. So Yoshi P first starts with a big explanation. It's like, you know, thanks for sticking with us this long. 2.0 really didn't have that much content, and we've added a lot of content since. But if you think back, uneven patches added like new alliance raids and were more for casual like leaning. They were more casually leaning patches. Even patches brought savage raids and were more hardcore. Then we added ultimates to uneven patches. But just this phrasing decides what the content is for that specific player base. I've been reading a lot of feedback after you gave the last producer live letter. So I've been doing a lot of thinking since that I myself am kind of deciding already when we add new content, what type of player is supposed to enjoy it. We have so much content in 14, but, and this is probably the most important thing that said, for someone who doesn't do Savage, an even patch might bring 0 content. Yeah, I've been saying that for a while. That as great as it is for Raiders, I've got, dude, since Endwalker, I've gotten, you know, the Savages every even number patch. I've had 3 ultimates, and now this will be my 2nd deep dungeon, so I've gotten to do the floor 100 climbs. I had 3 Criterions last expansion with Criterion Savages. You know, I got a Chaotic, I got Fork Tower. Like, I have eaten so good, even if I don't spend a billion years doing that content. Some of it's one and done, some of it's stuff I do on repeat, some of it's stuff I'll spend weeks on. All different. But I've been eating real good. And this is an idea that's always baffled me. Why when a new expansion comes out, it's effectively, here's the story, here's normal mode raids, and then here's nothing for the majority of the player base for the next 4 months. That pretty much encapsulates the concern that I've had with release cadence for individual types of content. Why waiting, you know, a year to release bows, any like an exploration content, Occult Crescent equivalent, is too long. Why a lot of the things they talk about during Fan Fest before the expansion take too long to get out because they just don't address the majority of the player base by giving something that everyone can eat at least a little bit. So he even says when we're adding 10 types of new content, hardcore players might enjoy 3, casual players might enjoy 3, all-rounders maybe 4 to 6. It's rare to have someone who enjoys all 10. They're not saying they do 10 every time, but it's an example number. So a design philosophy change I want to get is to show how there are different ways to enjoy the same content in a casual way or in a more hardcore way. Now, given this discussion was happening before Deep Dungeon, I immediately thought, oh, they're just going to highlight that you can solo it, right? Like, we did already know there was some new stuff. Like, they told us there would be a hard mode version of the 499 boss. And then there was the Deep Dungeon. I thought that was it. I was like, oh, they're just making sure that there's like, that little bit of extra for the hardcore to eat, or like, the casual player base, trying to get them to realize that it's not just, oh, hey, do 21 to 30 to level. I was wrong. So, shouldn't have done that. I still believe both sides need their own extremes. Definitely casual or super hardcore content is needed. Deep Dungeon, for example, has a solo clear from floor 1, but that's an element that's basically non-existent for players that enjoy doing the content for a group of 4. Sorry for starting this in a more serious way. So now they start actually talking about the Deep Dungeon. And there are some very significant changes to the entire Deep Dungeon system. It's at its core, when you're in it, you're doing a Deep Dungeon. But all of the systems surrounding it, other than the entry and the actual objective, have undergone some degree of change. So we're helping Feowul. We're going to the architectural remnants of the Church of the First Light in Ilmeg. We're going through there, and we're going to figure out what's going on. So first of all, need to clear floor 50 Palstead. We knew that. I still heavily disagree with that. I'm going to be releasing some new content on my channel to help people with that particular thing. Closer to the release of this, I will be doing carries on stream. They need to get rid of that requirement, or they need to really go back and update for the Palace of the Dead. They need to do something to like get that floor 50 clear, because it sucks as a new player. It just absolutely sucks. Complete the main scenario quest, Endwalker. Yeah, of course. Very specifically, only need Endwalker. Don't need Dawn Trail. Which is interesting now that I think about it, because, well, you need to be level 91. So like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. It just means that you could theoretically finish Endwalker's story, get to 91, go do this, and get to 100 without ever getting to Dawn Trail. Which I don't hate, but just an observation. So now they start kind of explaining it. And at first this is like, bro, Yoshi P, we don't need you to explain the Deep Dungeon for the 4th time. But there's a reason. Start from the first floor and make your way to floor 100. Face a boss every 10 floors. They show off some of the bosses. We've got a Pride Bush. We've got Omega Mushroom, or Tree Mega, whatever you want to call him. Pretty much standard stuff. It has its own gear progression system. You don't need any gear in order to enter, because it has its own separate thing. We have Big Armed Priest guy. And then same deal, in Pilgrim's Traverse, you're automatically equipped with Ether Pool gear, and then you can also take out the weapons. Now, first I want to say, these are the best looking Deep Dungeon weapons we've ever had. I'm not wild about the previous ones. Some of the designs are kind of cool, but they're effectively giant light sticks that have no... like they're just... They look like you just stripped all of the textures and just made it glow. And it's like, yeah, that can be kind of like, that does achieve a certain aesthetic, but they don't feel really aesthetic to me. These are stained glass weapons that are way more interesting and unique to me. The sword, the shield, the Astro Globe, the bow. These already look to me, way better than the other Deep Dungeon weapons. So, point there, but that's not that big a deal. Like like I said earlier, I'm not a big glam guy. I need to know about the content, right? Oh, no, I don't want to zoom that far in. Sorry. So, then there's an initial quest that you finish by beating the floor 30 boss. So if you just want to do the story quests, like there's that. And then there's like a story expansion if you want to go further, so you fully understand everything. But the initial quest has been completed. So previously, if you wanted to go past floor 30, you needed to be in a fixed party from wherever you started. Floor 1, floor 21, whatever. Those were both the starting points. But now you can actually do a matched party for the whole 100 floors. Matched party is basically Duty Finder, but for Deep Dungeons. So if you are like done with 21 to 30 and you want to try to go further, but you don't have like a group of players, you can at least try to go in with pugs, see the later floors, and get more out of the content without needing to join a party finder or a Discord or whatever. You could just pop right in. You might die, but you can do it. A good thing of 14 is just queue for content when you want to play it, so we tried to change the queue feature in this Deep Dungeon. If we managed to use resources, we'd also like to change this for the old content. This implies the older deep dungeons actually may get the same change in the future. However, as a reminder, in a matched party, all of your items inside reset every time, which actually can make it a lot harder to do in a matched party. But enhanced gear is usually good enough. 431 onwards, the boss fights steadily increase in difficulty. We got feedback too many things were one-shots in the last deep dungeons early on. So we're trying to go back to the difficulty level of Heaven on High. Also one of the bosses from the trailer and the single best Sabotender I've ever seen. So Heaven on High, deep dungeon players consider it, how do I put this? It's close to the pinnacle of deep dungeon difficulty. If there was some slight differences, it spikes really, really hard on the last 20 or 30 floors, way harder than Palace of the Dead does. So it can feel really, 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 really bad if you're actually trying to get those solos and go through. But Heaven on High was also most people's entry into deep dungeon, so it's generally regarded to as the best model example of a deep dungeon. It's not 200 floors long like Palace of the Dead. It has a pretty reasonably fast early progress, and the later floors are monstrously difficult, mostly through kiting, monster selection, things that people consider essential skills. So I would say that's the best thing they could have done, is gone to Heaven on High difficulty, but it does mean that those later floors are going to be pretty brutal. Higher floors, things will still one-shot you. Yeah, if you get hit on floors like 81 plus. But even in Eureka Orthos, you could just die in one hit on the second floor. It was crazy. I was so surprised that that was even a thing. Yeah, they're really trying to level things out. We see a couple more bosses. Now, in previous deep dungeons, if you wiped, you had to restart from floors 1 or 21. Now, this is how we thought it was going to work with the matched parties. If you wiped in a matched party, you go back to floor 21. And that sucks. Like if you're pugging and you go back to 21, you're going to crash out so hard. Not anymore. They're now grouping the floors into more pairings. So you will restart from 31, 51, or 71 depending on your progress. If you were to wipe on floor 47 in a matched party, you would go back to floor 31. And then you would match yourself from 31 to 40 and then 41 to 50. Still a bit of a pain for a matched party. But it means that if you're casually trying to progress it with a fixed party, that you actually have more restart options. You are not going to be forced back to floors 1 or 21 anymore if you just want to go through with a fixed party with a group of friends and actually progress through to the end. This is going to make it far more approachable for the average player who's never progressed through the later floors, whether it be with FC mates or in the matched parties, to actually do this incrementally. You don't need to set aside 6 to 8 hours to do a run anymore. You can do a little bit of progress and then sunset it for another day or something like that. Far more respective of the player's time and far more respective of the players who are not used to Deep Dungeon actually trying to learn it. This allows for a slow bit-by-bit progress as well. There's a boss on floor 99, and then floor 100 is going to be where you just kind of take screenshots and you just have to make it before the timer actually runs out. So, there's a new duty that is also being introduced, and this is where things start to get crazier. Not quite yet, but it's getting there. When you reach the floor 99 boss, you will actually unlock a duty that lets you just queue for the floor 99 boss. Now, this won't progress your deep dungeon. This is literally a totally separate instance. Can drop some rewards, but you're using it to practice the boss so that you can then go back into the deep dungeon and actually finish a floor 100 run. So you don't have to constantly go from 71 to 99, wipe, 71 to 99, wipe, 71 to 99, wipe. Just practice. If you're like, okay, I don't know if I can do it, practice the 99 boss, then go back in and actually finish it. So I'm totally okay with that as well, especially with what's coming up a little bit later. It doesn't count as you reaching floor 100, but because it even has rewards tied to it, it might be okay. So think of floor 99 as another checkpoint. This is the raid fight, the final verse. This is the floor 99 boss right here. And then it just says everything here, unlocks at floor 99. You can challenge it as much as you want. Talk to an NPC, it'll take you in. You can even challenge it solo if you're practicing for a solo deep dungeon run. You can do that right there. And valuable rewards may drop on rare occasions. That's going to be important later. After honing your skills, return to the deep dungeon and discover what awaits on floor 100. Now, they're also adding some challenge log objectives. Well, a challenge log for basically completing every set of floors. There's a challenge log for beating floor 20, floor 30, floor 50, floor 70, and floor 100. These are weekly because they are challenge logs. The floor 20, 50, and 100 runs give you luminous oils, which they said can be exchanged for rewards. We were never given an idea of what those rewards are. It doesn't seem like these are the same as the ether grip abilities to take the weapons out. So there's something else that they're probably used for. They're also not the same as the things you would use for potions, for example. Maybe you can buy shards with these to then use on potions as an option, but there are some rewards behind doing the challenge logs. There's also Blessed Hordes, which is a new tier of Accursed Horde, which is from Deep Dungeon, that we'll touch upon a little bit later. So there are now weekly objectives, more floor breakpoints, the ability to practice the floor 99 boss, as well as, of course, solo achievements for soloing up to floor 100. I don't know if you need to do it in one run. We don't know if you need a flawless 1 to 100 run, but we do know that the scoreboards, which is something for hardcore Deep Dungeoners that do actually compete for scoreboard placements, they will need to start from floor 1. So even those hardcore scoreboard seeking players will have a gameplay option that doesn't take anything away from anything else. It's something they've enjoyed, something they'll continue to enjoy. And based on some of the stuff we saw earlier, they'll probably have a better time here than they did with Eureka Orthos. So then they showed off some rewards. We have the Pride Bush as one of the rewards. We have the Trio Mega as one of the mount rewards. We also have a Chandelier. This is actually called the Votive. We'll see these later. That is also a mount reward. Then they showed us some other things. They showed us a non-deep dungeon mount. It's really hard to see in the screenshot, but it's the hoverboard from Cosmic Exploration. You know how when you take the pathways, the shortcuts, it's that hoverboard. So that's probably a Cosmic Exploration reward. And then, of course, they understood they hit gold. We're getting a Yan mount. The fact that they turned that around in one patch tells me they had no intention of doing this and just decided to. There's no way they knew that they were going to be doing a Yan mount this patch. They definitely just decided that after seeing how popular. You can't convince me it's any other way. And if they deny it, I'll consider them liars. We don't know where the Yan comes from. There are several options. For one, treasure maps, of course, are an option. Fox leaves are a very real option as well. I can't imagine it being anything other than those two, but it could be bicolor gemstones. It could be gathering tokens. I don't think it's those things. I think it's either treasure maps or Fox Hollows. If it's anything else, we'll see, but there's a Yan mount, so get to it. Yeah. And oh, there's a better picture of the hoverboard, by the way, again from Cosmic Exploration. We did also see the minion. This beaver is from, this is a Sin Eater beaver. It is from the Deep Dungeon as well. Going forward a little bit, then we find, okay, this is when things get wild. This was when it got wild. The final verse, Quantum Difficulty. At first glance, we went, why would you make another? Just call it hard, call it savage, call it whatever you're going to call it. Why would you call it quantum? There's a reason. Because it is a brand new type of difficulty that is adjustable by the player themselves. So, quantum can only be entered by using offerings, which are rewarded initially from the floor 100 quest, so clearing your first 100 floors, and then can be earned through Accursed Hordes, or it says actually down below, I'll look at that. I think it was like Accursed Horde, or you can exchange for them. Offerings will only be consumed upon successfully defeating the boss, Eminent Grief, and opening the treasure coffer that appears. So the final verse, Quantum, this is the duty, but the name's boss is Eminent Grief. So you need, oh, and this is only challengeable by a party of 4. You can use the party finder, but only a challenge of 4. So you need to put in at least 15 offerings. Every player who's entering, all 4 players need at least 15 offerings. when you beat the floor 100 quest, you're given 40 offerings immediately. So at first you're like, oh, I can do like 2 in some battles. Like I'll need to go get 5 more offerings. Yeah. So can be traded via the market board or found from the Accursed Horde. So they can be bought and sold for the entry items. So everyone can easily go and challenge with 15, but then if you want to do more, you're going to have to go in, do horde runs, which I actually think will probably be, it depends, if gold hordes can give you more offerings, then 71 to 80 horde farming is actually, it's going to be interesting, because for fixed parties, what you can do is go into floor 71, pop the thing, see if there's a horde on floor 71. If there's not, exit, re-enter, and do that over and over again. That's the ideal Accursed Horde farm. It's how people do the 20,000 horde achievement as well. But if you're just doing casual runs, it means stopping to try to get a horde is not the worst idea either, because these offerings, you're either going to use them or you're going to sell them, which is probably going to be a good thing for those looking to make a little bit of gil. But you can offer as much as 40. It says at least 15 offerings are required, but you can offer up to 40. There are 5 different types of these offerings: sacramental spirits, spices, grains, lights, and lilies. And you can use up to 8 for a total of 40. But why? That's because the quantum difficulty allows you to customize the actual encounter that you are doing. If you offer 3 of each offering, you get a very balanced menu like you're seeing here. I know it's a little cut off, but on the left side, it says max HP and fire damage. So those are the 2 you can't see. I mean, I guess if I just do this, you can see the whole thing. So if you do 3 of each offering, you get a very balanced boss that looks like this. It's got the intended amount of health, and it does like the same damage. Like there's no mechanic that really stands out, right? But you could also offer 0 HP offerings, maybe an extra physical damage offering, but like 8 light offerings, and get to like 1 mechanic is insanely much harder hitting, but the boss is made of paper, so you can actually kill the boss super quick. Or if you offer all 40, as you can see on the right hand side, you can buff all of their stats to max. Now on the surface, that's like, okay, so the boss will hit harder and have more health. I mean, cool. I mean, maybe that'll like be significant. You'll have to care about MIT more. You'll definitely need to know your damage rotation. But who cares? Like, it's just buffing stats is not interesting. They agreed. So the mechanics also change when you start maxing out offerings. The more offerings that you actually offer, the more the boss mechanics change. And at 40, they've said it is a considerable challenge. Experiment with different combinations. Once you clear 100, you get 40 offerings. So give this a try afterwards. And if you can clear with 15, you might want to go back in and try a little bit more. I'm not saying which offerings change which stats just yet, but you'll know when you start using them on the boss. With 40 offerings, this is more difficult than the 4th floor of a Savage fight. The fight length is shorter, but some of the mechanics with 40 offerings will be ultimate level. Oh boy. Even enough to have a race here. And if you clear with 40 offerings, you actually get a title. That was definitely not on my bingo card. Let me tell you. I did not have that on my bingo card for this live letter. I don't know if you're the hero, the forgiven hero, forgiven legend, what you are. I have no idea. But what I do know is I'm doing that. Now, they did also take some time to confirm they are working on variant for 7.4. People have been wondering where it is. I've been saying I think an even numbered patch would be best for variant and criterion. They did confirm that they are working on that for 7.4, but they're also trying to improve the possibilities for different play styles for their players. Their goal from that same quote earlier, if we add 10 contents, I hope players can find 7 things to do. Clearly, this quantum thing is not a one-off. They want to look at ways where players can approach something at various difficulty levels that may be more suited to what they actually want to attempt. If you are someone who likes doing somewhat harder content but isn't really super comfortable with like a super savage ultimate level fight, then you can come into this and try a bunch of stuff with the different offerings. You can try a solo climb through Deep Dungeon, or you can just go through with your friends, whether you're whether you're casual or someone who likes somewhat harder content. If you're a masochist and you want to go all the way, then you have this 40 offering challenge, which I'm hereby dubbing a Q40 run. Maybe we call it PT40, Pilgrim's Traverse 40. I don't know, our Final Verse 40, FV40, FV15, FV20, FV40. The community will pick one and we'll end up going with it, because if this isn't the last place we're going to do Quantum, we might as well start coming up with a good abbreviation system for it now. FV40 is probably the thing to actually call this. And so it sounds like we're going to be seeing a lot more of this. This is the kind of thing people wanted to see, and people were honestly waiting till I was waiting till 8. I was going to have to wait till 8.0. I wrote off anything like this ever happening. Come on. Yeah, even Yoshi P goes, I understand when the feedback is why now too slow, but we need to start somewhere. True. I mean, at this point you really do. You can't go back and do it with everything else. You might as well do it with the new thing. Now, in terms of the reward structure, Blessed Horde, again, the top tier Horde above gold. Final Verse can occasionally drop it. That's the practice fight against the floor 99 boss. Quantum will guarantee Horde drops proportionate to the number of offerings made. I'm going to guess 1 per 5 offerings at best. Probably not 1 per 15 and probably not 1 per 10. I'm guessing 1 per 5 or 1 per 8. Either of those I wouldn't be too surprised for. And then, of course, you can also get them through the challenge log like we went earlier. These have a number of valuable rewards in them. The weekly log reward allows you to have a better overview. So if you're someone who can't do this insanely high-level content, you can still get Blessed Hordes and just have less chances to actually go for the rewards. And yeah, so in terms of structure, realistically, the title is the thing that you're after the most. And then the offerings going into that. I am a little concerned that Hordes are not enough. I don't care what's in them. I think, again, you really need to consider gear progression always. I would love if a new player who maybe isn't doing Savages that much right now could go into this and progress. I know some people are going to be like, oh, well, the weapons have item level. Not quite what I think is enough. I do think that upgrade materials at the bare minimum should be considered from things like this, and that means of getting players into 4-player gear progression should constantly be considered. So already a fear in terms of reward structure. Not going to say this is all glowing praise right now. And if that ends up being a problem, learn from it, adapt to it. But realistically, with Criterion, they should have known right off the bat. Maybe they didn't want to commit that to a system they didn't know if people were going to do, but honestly, they kind of should have. But that's my feedback on that already, just from what we've been told. Now, again, you can solo. There is a title for soloing to floor 100. There will be a ranking board, and reaching floor 100 is as difficult as the previous Deep Dungeons. The question is, if you can restart from 71 to 100, does the title require you to flawlessly, with 0 deaths, go from 1 to 100? I think they should do that. Not no deaths. I'm sorry. No restarts would be the better way to put it. I think that is the better way to do the title. Obviously, it has to be that way for the rankings, but until we know for certain, we don't know if you just need to beat floor 100 as a solo or if you need to do it from 1 to 100 flawlessly. So until we are told for certain, I'm not going to rule out that's not one or the other. Now we're going in game. They did just show it off, and we did get to see that there are some new elements to the actual dungeon itself here. Oh, okay, so biggest thing. Holy moly. The monsters do not take 1 billion years to kill. He was able to, with his skills, kill them 3 or 4 GCDs with no ether pool. That is on par with like a heaven on high, like low level experience. Like the first 10 floors, you'll probably, the first like 4 or 5 floors, you'll probably kill in like, depending on your job, like that many number of GCDs, maybe a little bit more. Without ether pool, that quickly gets out of control from 11 up. But either way, it is not going to be a Eureka Orthos where it's just so agonizingly slow for the first 30 floors. Oh my god, that was the worst part about Orthos. Even when doing it as a group, it's not even fun. So they learned their lesson there. No early floor slogfest. Thank goodness for that. It's beautiful. The areas are more open. It goes indoors. It goes outdoors. There's a lot of variety in the way that the rooms actually look. The music is also quite nice. He steps on a few traps, reveals some accursed hordes, kills some dudes. Nothing too fancy here. And he goes through a couple of floors that way. Traps, fighting enemies. Oh, and then he gets to the votives. Now, votives are a brand new mechanic to the new Deep Dungeon. We've never had an icon added to the map. Votives basically are gambas for buffs or debuffs. On the first 30 floors, votives always provide you with a beneficial effect. After floor 30, 31 I should say, they have a chance to give you a negative effect as well. You might be wondering why you would do this. A, because it's fun. B, people who do solo point runs, these will probably reward a substantial number of points. So players will who are competing for leaderboard status will almost certainly still be attempting to use these on floors 31 plus. So this is both a really good thing for a casual player, especially for the leveling floors, for the early floors, but also something that's going to appeal to the really hardcore deep dungeoners who are always putting things on the line, their strategies, how much they calculate, how many risks they want to take. It's going to be for them too. So he uses the votive, and it tells him that on the next floor, he will have an additional effect. When he goes to the next floor, he actually ended up getting lifesteal. Now, I want to take this opportunity to remind people, the votive effect is actually shown on the screen right here. This is what cannot be negative on floors 30 and below. He did get a no item roll on the floor that is irrespective of the votive. He did also get a max HP increase. But this effect apparently ended up being lifesteal. So he now has, for this entire floor, he now has lifesteal. So that's what he ended up doing. He then went up to the next floor and simultaneously used his dev cheats to give himself a full inventory of Pomanders and one of the new systems, the Juniper Incense. Juniper Incense summons Feoul to help you in one of three ways. We were only really able to outright determine two of them. One of them is Feoul being a full floor wipe, basically working the exact same way that a Magicite would have worked in the previous floor. So like you can see in Heaven on High, it gives you invincible and it causes a full floor wipe. You can see they have the invincible effect right here. You see Feoul doing Titania's ultimate. And then there's one that also increased max HP and MP. The first one, from what we could discern, looks like it gave Serenity. So it removed all positive and negative effects. So it removed his max HP, which was his only effect at the point. It revealed the entire map, and it also probably removed all traps. So it seems like an ultra floor reset, but then she kept following him around afterwards. We don't know if that has a continued effect, like helps you in combat, heals you, for example. We never got to see that in effect. So there still might be a little bit of mystery since we know that there are supportive options specifically with those. Yeah, and then this is just what are Pomanders, the treasure coffers, giving you Ether Pool, Glass Fragments, Juniper Incense, Pomanders, enhancements, all that stuff. The Juniper Incense, as you can see here, this is the Feoul one. Powerful attacks or supports through the current floor. And it's just a couple of different things that it does there. Now we get Ether Pool Glass Fragments. These are normally used in order to obtain potions to make progression smoother, whether it be solo or the group. Having those extra potions is nice. They can also be used for framer kits and an actual gear set here. So people thought, why another Dapper gear set? That is actually a reference to the boss from the level 73 dungeon. That is Ankh. Ankh's outfit from the Don Meg, the dungeon. So yeah, we got the Floth outfit, basically, the very dapper Floth outfit, and it's looking pretty swell, if I may say so myself. The Accursed Horde can have things like the Pride Bush, a Feoul minion, which we did get blow-ups right here. We have blow-ups of all of these. So there's the Floth outfit right there. And then we also there's the Pride Bush right there. And then there is the Feoul minion right there. Yeah, it's a big feather. Big feather on the hat right there. Huge feather on the hat right there. I was told Feo is angry that they haven't been turned into a minion yet. Now, that was the last thing they showed us in terms of content updates. The quantum thing, really important. Really excited for that. And especially if it shows a change in the way they want to develop for the game in the future. We have never really had that expressed and shown to us in an in-game function ever. So when people demand for innovation, that's at least a layer of it. There's other pieces of the game that need a lot of help. And so we'll see if that same mentality is shifted to places like the friends list, free company, all the social features, really. But I like seeing the mentality. We just need to see it go more places at this point. And for some of us, the live letter was kind of over after this. They actually had more to show. And apparently Yoshi P was going to Taiwan the next day. But there is some less exciting / disappointing bits here in the final portion of the live letter. Number one, we were expecting to see TARDIS housing during this live letter. We have been told that for number of placed items and the TARDIS interior upgrade, they are almost done, but need more time. I don't know if that's 0.35 and they just weren't ready to show it. I don't know if that's 0.4. I'm going to assume it's 0.4 at the earliest at this point, right alongside with the raid planner. So starting this last bit with a bit of a disappointment on the housing section. That is a huge matter of things that they need to address with housing. There's a ton of stuff. The good news is there are way more houses open right now. So just go get the correct house. Good luck, I suppose. Then we had some other system updates. Blacklist improvements they made a post about on the Lodestone. Phoenix Down. Didn't have this on my bingo board either. Phoenix Downs are actually going to be useful now. So they stack up to 999. They can be used in combat, and they can be purchased from vendors. They can be used in deep dungeons, instance dungeons, that's any dungeon, expert roulette, leveling, any dungeon. Treasure dungeons, guild hests, 4-player trials. So that means Rathalos doesn't make any sense because you just get carded. So I guess that would just mean the story trials, the 4-player story trials. And variant dungeons. They can be used in all those places. So, if you have that healer who keeps dying in your expert roulette and you just want to give them a second chance, carry some Phoenix Downs with you. If you don't have a summoner, if you don't have a red mage, that'll help, pretty much. And yeah, since they can be purchased. They do have a 6-minute recast. But, listen. It's more than it was before. I'll take it. Everyone can res in, like, 4-player, kind of more casual content. And treasure dungeons, if you only have one healer and they die, go ahead, pick them up. Then they mentioned the cast bar system. You can turn it off. That was the one they showed off earlier. We talked about that already. They're making some G-Post updates. They're adding a portrait mode and the ability to rotate text stickers. So you can kind of crop that right there and see how it goes. Pressing the preview button will show you how it looks. Then you can add the stickers or the frame. I don't know why they showed it to us flipped over like that. I guess people enjoy that. People enjoy that for some reason. I don't know. I'm not a big G-Pose person, but I know some people were excited about this. So you don't have to actually do it manually anymore. Then there was also adding chromatic aberration. That's like this like weird kind of out of focus color effect. I mean, I'm colorblind, so I don't care. But like, I also just don't like the way that looks. It's like, they even say it's like the red-blue 3D glasses effect. I was like, yeah, I don't want that. And then we have also, what is this feature? Where's the slide that says what it is? There's another name for this feature. They left out the slide that it has, but it's like this like weird, like watercolor thing effect that you can use in the back and then add the filters and whatnot. I don't remember what this is called, but I'm never going to, intensity of color filter effects. Yeah. So you can actually kind of like completely blot out colors in the back or like really muddy them should you so desire it. Dome and Mahjong voices, Wook Lamont, Koana, Bakul Jaja. We knew this already. Character display range increase. This will allow you to display characters from further away, but it doesn't increase the number of characters that will actually be shown. So in less populated areas, it gives you a much better visual of the place you're going to. So like this is what it looks like now. If you were in this exact spot, you would basically see nothing. With the wide setting, you can start to see some of the monsters populating the map right here. And then with max, it can be seen all the way back into the distance, like right here. You can see there's people all the way in the back. Some people might think, oh, that helps with the hunt. Again, number one, S ranks already have render priority, so that doesn't matter. And it doesn't increase the number that can be displayed. So if anything, you would just be, it will only matter if you were at the front of a hunt train going to an A rank. Still nice to have, especially for just general use when you're going through a zone. It'll make it so you can actually see the things on the ground from further away without having to get so close. And it makes it feel a little bit more alive. So I will definitely take it. Then they had the chat bubbles. Chat bubbles, for the most part, going to be used as intended, but there was one thing that was disappointing about this feature. Feature is optional, disabled by default. Text will continue to display in the chat log as normal, on or off, depending on which chat mode it is. Chat bubble and font color can also be set according to chat mode. Chat can be set to display 1 line or 2 lines of text. Text will be truncated upon reaching a certain word count. And then the most important detail, chat bubbles will not be displayed during battle or PvP. You might be wondering why that is. There are plenty of functional uses as to why you could use a chat bubble in battle. For example, a mechanic is coming up and your party member posts a reminder of that mechanic. You receive a debuff and you want to tell everyone around you you're the one with that debuff. The integration between that and third-party tools likely to be very high, where players would effectively, with chat bubbles enabled, automatically be posting things with that enabled. And thus, you would have a bunch of chat bubbles popping up on the screen, especially weird during someplace like top where everyone gets a ton of debuffs. But yeah, I'm assuming they wanted to have some sort of line between the way it's used, and they largely want it to be used for social reasons and not for combat reasons. I'm not too surprised. World of Warcraft does this with like DBM, where if you're marked with something, it'll pop up over your head, and on top of the various other things that happen on the screen. And that sort of visual mess can be very not nice for some people, but it would definitely become a party finder standard. It would be hard to imagine many PFs not wanting you to have that on, not wanting to have your chat bubble display on. I don't know why that would matter, because if they have it on, they'll see it. It's not like you having it disabled would mean you still have to, only you wouldn't see it. I'm neither here nor against this. I personally just don't like using chat bubbles. It's not a feature that is important to me, but I mean, using them in combat has functional uses. So saying push the crystal in PvP, or just saying good match, good match, good match, good match, good match, also has its own thing. It really does just seem like they want to keep the visual clutter down for combat. I understand it, but I can't say I'm in 100% agreement with it. It's more like I'm not interested, but I don't entirely agree with that approach as a whole. But I would assume they didn't say all that. I'm just assuming that's why they're not doing it for battle or PvP, just so it doesn't cause visual noise during otherwise, something that has, there's a lot of visual noise anyway. They're not adding to the visual noise. Then they just spent a little bit of time showing off the settings. You can enable or disable the various ones. They all have slightly different visuals depending on which chat log they're actually coming from. You can adjust the filters or the colors, I should say, for each and every one of them. We keep the bubble white and add color in the top corner. I hope he responds. Yeah. So then it just shows them talking back and forth. Hey, how are you doing? I'm all right. You got a nice minion. Chat log stays the same, shows the maximum message length right here. So you can see this is where it would start cutting off when you're using it. You can't change for how long a message is displayed. So like it's only displayed for like, let's say 5 seconds. You can't shorten that or lengthen it. They said for now, which clearly means that they're already considering allowing you to extend that. This because it concerns the rendering burden. Okay. But it just says for now all the same. This was a feature that has been requested for a long time, and that is where they basically ended everything. After that is QVC. We didn't get FanFest. We didn't get anything 14 mobile related. We saw acrylics. We saw the Job Ice Cube tray. They're releasing a new version of the Pulse album, which has 5 additional tracks. So this is Volume 2's deluxe edition. Volume 2 for Pulse was split into 2 halves, each with 5 tracks. We now have the deluxe edition with 5 additional tracks. So I'm going to need more details because I just want the 5 additional tracks. I don't want to buy the deluxe edition to get 5 additional tracks. I just want to have those 5 additional tracks. So I don't know. They're also going to be doing a Square Enix brand, a new street casual brand from Square Enix, presenting Lit Bath Apt. I'm guessing that's an existing clothing brand that's just doing some Square Enix merch. Looks like it's largely focused around the Loprit stuff, like the Loprit DJ stuff, because you can see all that stuff, the music stuff here, and you can see the Loprit ears basically all over everything. That's going to be Japan's release date. Looks like it's going to be September 25th, but for everyone else, it's going to be late December or late January 2025, 2026, respectively. Size availability for NA and EU will be large and extra large only. So that's a really interesting little bit that I missed the first time. But, you know, if it's casual wear, cool. I mean, it's not like I'm planning on hitting the gym in these things. Although hitting the gym in a large, extra large shirt could be kind of relieving at times. And then there's going to be a patch note reading August 5th. Reminder, I'm not going to be doing a patch note reading at all unless I decide to do it. I'm going to be on vacation when the preliminaries come out. And I won't even be home for the patch itself. I won't be alive until the day after patch. So I'm going to be a little sparse on the patch content rush this time, but I'll be back to get it all done and post all my first times and thoughts and the usual stuff. Probably just going to skip the guides because by the time I'm a day late, I'll just be doing whatever the party finder's doing at that point. And that was it for the live letter. So some quite promising things, but not a whole addressing of what have been largely the recent concerns. We were told, for example, we are going to be getting a friends list update this expansion, but we haven't seen anything. We know we're getting another blacklist update as well. So there's obviously a lot of concerns that people still have, very valid concerns. And while this quantum mode thing is really cool, and it does bring a lot of promise for the future of Final Fantasy XIV, it is but one feature amidst what is a whole host of aggression, I would say, at the moment. So 7.3, we will take it as it is. We will enjoy it for what it is, or try to, and then we will go from there. Feedback will continue to pour in. Criticisms will continue to pour in. There's nothing wrong with either. Just try to be respectful about it. Can't ask for much else at this point because we all want to see the game get better. It's just a matter of, well, how you talk to people. But anyway, that's going to be a wrap for my overview on this most recent live letter. The live letter patch 7.3 part 2 live letter. There you go. I have been awake now for 8 hours, so I'm going to rest my brain slightly while I talk to my Twitch chat. That's not going to help me rest my brain. I get this up for everyone to enjoy on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section of the video below, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Until then.